Let's continue talking about Chag Shavuot. We're almost there. So, as we said, right, that should try to pray the nets at the right time. At this time of year, the right time is 4:30 Shachrit, 5:26 Netzachama. You start the Amidah, you finish. That's it. That's the way it's done. That's the way it should be done. Not too early, not too late. Right right at nets. That's the best time to do it. That's one thing. They say, by the way, the Chazal, that a person who prays has a zechut to pray benetz. It's a very big zechut, if he does this, and nothing bad will happen to him all day if he prays benetz. So it's a very big zechut to pray benetz. You know why this is? Because the Kriyat Shema is supposed to be said before Netzachama, and then right at Netzachama, right when the sun rises, you're supposed to do Amidah. This is the proper way to do it. And then, once they do that, the minyan should be finished by 7 o'clock, You should go quick, Don't delay, and do all kinds of things. Go quickly and finish it off. There's also Hallel, right? The full Hallel we say on Chag Shavuot. Of course. Just like any other holiday. Okay, great, so you know that. So as we said, right, that then you go home, and what happens is like this, right? We have a minhag to eat chalavi. Should I wait for you? No. Okay. So we have a minhag to eat chalavi. You know the problem is the place is very small. So when somebody talks, it really bothers you. If it was a big shul, it wouldn't affect me so much. But it's like the guy's right in front of you, talking. It's like I can't concentrate. It's very hard to concentrate. This is the problem. How can I tell you? So please bear with me. Okay, so as we said, right, that there's a minhag to talk to eat chalavi on Shavuot, right? But the thing is, a lot of people. I'm sorry, Mechila.
What time is starting the chalavi?
Good question. Okay, so let's talk about it, right? So the thing is like this. A lot of people make a mistake. What's chalavi, right? Dairy. Dairy food, milk, right? Cheese, and things like this, right? So a lot of people make a mistake with this. What they do is, I've seen some Ashkenazi families, that they eat only chalavi, all Shavuot, like only chalavi. Pasta, with cheese and, this kind of thing. This is not the proper way. Why? Because after all, it's a Yom Tov. Yom Tov has to have basar. You got to have your basar also. Meat and wine, it's a mitzvah deoraita from the Torah. And chalavi is only minhag. So how can you can eat chalavi only on Chag Shavuot? It's a Yom Tov, right? Yom Tov has to have basar and yain. So what's the proper way to do it? Right, the proper thing to do is like this, Go home, make kiddush, have a little something chalavi, right? Some blintzes, whatever, right? Whatever you want to eat, right? Chachapuri, if you're a Georgian guy, right? Eat some chachapuri. Whatever, right? All this good stuff, you want to eat chalavi, some yogurt, some whatever, some pudding, I don't know, whatever, all that good stuff you like to eat. Chalavi, right? And then, once you finish the chalavi, once you get a little bit hungry, then have a nice meat meal, whenever you're hungry. Afterwards. So you can have chalavi in the morning, and then in the afternoon, 2 o'clock, let's say, sit down, have a nice seudah, for a holiday, for Chag. Just can't eat chalavi, blintzes all Shavuot. It's not proper to do like that. So this is the proper way to do it. This is the way my rabbi told us, he says, first make kiddush chalavi, and then, have seudah basari. But the thing is that you don't have to eat chalavi for every seudah. It's not like, some kind of mitzvah deoraita, I have to have it. No, just, even if you eat once a day, that's good enough, whatever you want, it's up to you, But the thing is, it has to be, that the chalavi comes before the basari, right? Otherwise you gotta wait 6 hours, If you eat basari, you cannot have chalavi for 6 hours, right? So you can't do it that way, right? Unless you want to do first in the morning, basari, and then to eat chalavi later on, in the evening, right? Let's say, 6 o'clock, I don't know, whatever. You want to have something chalavi. That's also good, that's fine. Whatever you want to do, But make sure you do it the proper way according to halakha. This is also a very important thing, So this is the thing with the chalavi, That's how we do it. This is the proper way to do it. People make mistakes with this, whatever. But it's okay, B'ezrat Hashem. The point is like this, Also,
Monday morning or whole day? Monday?
Yeah, you should, have a little chalavi on Monday, have a little chalavi on Tuesday. Why not?
Sunday night, not Sunday night.
Sunday night, you could have also halavi. Why not? But the thing is, because we're going to do the tikkun, maybe there's not enough time. This is the problem. Mechila, Rabbi. I gotta wait for these guys. Mechila. I understand. Anyway, right, so as we said, so that's the proper way to do it. A little halavi on Monday, a little halavi on Tuesday, right? But don't eat too much. You know why? Because if you eat too much halavi, there won't be any appetite for basari. You know what I mean? If you eat, you get full. That's too much. Maybe. You know what I mean? So you gotta, keep it under control. Everything under control. Mechila.
Interesting question. He says, if you have a Sunday night,
yeah.
You have a mincha, Rabbi, come home, can you have a...
After mincha, after that.
Yeah,
you said 5:46, mincha is done.
No, I'm talking about shachrit. No, I'm talking about shachrit. Yeah.
Can you have
mincha, whenever the rabbi wants to make mincha, he makes mincha. Whatever, 7 o'clock, whatever he makes. Whatever.
What we allow to eat after mincha on a Sunday night, before the...
You should have a seudah basari, but if you want to eat halabi before, look, you could do it, no problem, No problem. That's no problem, yeah, sure. Yeah. If you like it, if you like that, whatever. But the thing is, people want to also go to the shul, and do the tikkun, so they don't have so much time to eat, halavi, then basari takes like 2-3 hours, until you finish everything. And, by the time you're done, it's already 12 o'clock. You're looking at the clock. Too late already, when am I going to go do tikkun? So, a little bit too late,
But then at night, usually when we finish first part of the reading Torah,
right.
It's like 1 o'clock.
Sure.
Our rabbi makes the rabbiner.
Yeah, they bring some snacks, yeah.
Is it 1 o'clock?
From 11 to 1.
To 1.
So,
2 hours. You go downstairs, you have little meat, and then in the morning you still have to have a halavi.
You don't have to. Just make sure you wait 6 hours. You know what I mean? I'm sorry?
You gotta make the kiddush.
Yes, on wine you make kiddush, then you do whatever you want, right? You want to do halavi, you can do halavi. You want to do basari, do basari. Whatever you want to do, it's up to you. But as I said, right, the minhag is to do first halavi, because, otherwise you have to wait 6 hours. You know what I mean? But,
at night when we eat meat,
yeah.
we have to
6 hours, yeah. So, in other words, he's bringing over here basari, that's what you're saying, the rabbi? Yeah, so by the time you get home, 8 o'clock, it should be okay already, 6 hours, or something like that, right? Yeah, whatever, so, you do everything according to halakha, and it's all good. Or maybe you want to sleep, and then do halavi 12 o'clock, in the afternoon. You know what I mean? That's also good, fine, whatever you want to do, So, whatever your stomach wants. Right, go according to your stomach. Okay, that's...
everybody doing halavi.
All right, God bless them, But also you have to do basari, for the mitzvah. You have to do, Halavi is just minhag, So you cannot put this in front of that, right? Right? Why is it that we do? Mechila Rabotai. If we can have some silence, thank you. I appreciate it. So, as we said, right? What's the reason why we do halavi? So there's brought down several reasons in the Chazal. Why this is done? Because they say, right, that what happened? Am Yisrael, they messed up a little bit. They made a mess, Leil Shavuot. What was a mess? That they fell asleep, and Hashem had to come and wake them up, Alarm clock. They didn't set the alarm clock, So they fell asleep, and they were like, huh? What happened? Huh? All of a sudden Hashem comes right on Har Sinai to wake them up, to receive the Torah. So they didn't have time, to make basar. It takes time, right? 2-3 hours to make, to cook basar. Takes a long time. So what did they do? They went to the, fridge, right? They got some yogurt, They ate some halavi, and then they went to Har Sinai. They didn't have time to make basari, A little yogurt, little cheese, something, to keep you over. This is the reason why, that we do, right? Because they were in a rush. There was a rush, They fell asleep. This is what happened.
Some rabbis say they don't have the kashrut time to make. This was not kashrut.
Right, yeah, there's several reasons that brought down like this. Right. There was no kashrut, there was no this, there was no that. All kinds of things, But the point is, right, that this minhag stayed with us, for all time because of this, what happened over there on that night. Okay, it's all good, Baruch Hashem. So anyway, right, have some halavi, enjoy. Right, that's also good. But also basari, you have to eat. Right, we have to have 2 seudot on Yom Tov. Shabbat we eat 3 seudot, right? But Yom Tov 2 is enough. That's it, right? 1 at night, one in the day. That's it. That's all you need, right? Make some halavi kiddush. Beautiful. That's it, right? You're all set. You don't need more than that, right? Don't eat too much, you get fat. What do you need it for, right? And your doctor's going to tell you, your doctor's going to tell you, you're fat, you need to lose 50 pounds. Who needs that? You don't need that.
Second day is the same thing, right?
Same thing, except one thing, right? That we don't do the tikkun on the second night, right? So then we go to sleep on time, so it becomes much easier, to do everything, much more normal. But the first night is very hectic, Why don't we do tikkun second night? Because this was not the night that we received the Torah, It was the first night that we received the Torah, not the second night. Second night is just Yom Tov Sheni, right? Which is also custom, it's a minhag. So we do that, we keep it, but it's not the main time. The main time is, but also a person, I say, even if you did the tikkun at night, when you wake up, in the afternoon, whatever, right? Once you slept, you should also learn some Torah in the afternoon, Don't say, okay, I'm done, I'm finished, Gamanu, finito. No, why finito? You have to also learn in the daytime, It's still Chag Shavuot. You know what I mean? So try to learn also in daytime something. Okay, whatever, it's all good, Bezat Hashem. One thing interesting I want to tell you, I heard one rabbi who reminded me about this. You know what we're talking about? That, we read on Chag Shavuot, Aser Tadibrot, right? 10 Commandments. Right? It's a big deal, So, there's a custom by many communities that they stand, for Aser Tadibrot. They stand up. You know what I mean? Because the truth is, I'll tell you something interesting, right? By the Ashkenazim, a lot of the people over there, they stand for the whole Torah, from beginning to end, every Shabbat. Every time they stand, We don't have this minhag like this, we're starting. We don't have this custom. So we don't stand for the Kriyat Torah, number one. Number two, also, by our custom, the Sfardim, we don't stand for Aser Tadibrot, 10 Commandments. I don't know what the custom is here. They stand?
No.
Good, Baruch Hashem. Oh, this is a smart Keilah. Chachamim. Kulam Chachamim, Kulam Nevonim. Yishtabach Shemo. So what's the reason why, the Ashkenazim, they do stand, And also a lot of communities that were influenced by Ashkenazim, They also stand up. So what's the reason why they stand, and what's the reason why you shouldn't stand? I'll tell you, both sides, right? The reason why they stand is because they want to give kavod to Aser Tadibrot, right? Which is like the main part of the Torah. You know what they say, right? The Chazal. They say that Aser Tadibrot, the whole Torah is in there, if you really can darshan. You know what I mean? Everything is in there. The whole Torah is in Aser Tadibrot. We just don't know how to darshan it like that. But the big Chachamim, they could darshan everything. Everything is there. All the Taryag mitzvot is in Aser Tadibrot. Everything is there. So it's a big deal, So they stand to give kavod to Aser Tadibrot. But the problem is that, what happened was that they asked the Rambam this question, and he wrote a tshuva about this in the Tshuvot. It's not in the Mishneh Torah. It's in the Tshuvot of the Rambam, right? So he writes over there, they asked him this question, should we stand, should we not stand? So he said, no good. Don't stand. Why? Because he said, very smart thing, Rambam was big chacham. He was a big man, Adam Gadol, So you know what he said, right? He said, if you stand for Aser Tadibrot, what people are going to think, Amiratzot, that only this is the real Torah. The rest of the Torah is not real, Just Moshe Rabbeinu wrote down some things. From his own mind, So this is the problem, When you stand for Aser Tadibrot, what you're saying is that this Torah is more Torah than the other Torah. This is something like, right? It's the real Torah. And people are going to say, you see, the other Torah is not real Torah. This is like, fake. Chas v'shalom, right? Can you imagine? They're going to say like that, right? So this is the problem, when people see like things like this, they get the wrong impression. By the way, I've seen, I've been around in this world for a while. I've spoken to a lot of people, who are not so knowledgeable in Torah. And they tell me, only Aser Tadibrot, that's the real Torah. The rest of it, Moshe Rabbeinu wrote, in his own mind. A lot of people believe that. You know what I mean? So if a person believes that, when you do this custom like this minhag to stand, you're helping them to make this minhag stronger. It's no good, right? This belief. It's a false belief. So this is the reason why, don't do it, and, whatever, right? But they say, that there are keilot that have minhag to do it, and there are some chachamim, that allow that, and they even encourage it, so let them do what they want to do, If you fight with them, they're not going to listen to you anyway, So what is going to help you? Maybe, if you speak to them, if they're a little bit understanding, they'll understand. But probably they won't, they're not going to listen to you. So, whatever, right? Nara pashte, right? Every minhag is right there in its own place. Well, that's the way it is. Okay, great. So that's another thing, right? Another famous question which is asked, but, are you allowed to make barbecue on Yom Tov, right? On Shavuot, right? And the answer is yes. There's no problem. There's no problem to make barbecue. So, I'll tell you why people think, it's a problem. The truth is it could be a problem, if you do it the wrong way. That's the thing, So what does that mean? If you want to make a barbecue, you have to have already esh, in your house, right? Candle, memorial candle.
For any cooking.
I'm sorry?
It's for any
Yeah, of course. So you gotta have esh, right? So what you gotta do is, take like a match, or a candle from that esh, and put it on the coals to light the barbecue. So you take from one esh and to another esh. This is the way to do it, But if you start a new fire, right, this is already, a problem, right? You can't do that. No good, right? So you gotta make sure you have esh in your house. If you want to do mangal, you want to do barbecue, make sure you have that. Number one. Now, there's another thing, people think that what happens is, right, if you make a barbecue, we all do, right? We all make barbecues. Yeah, we all do it, right? So, right, from experience, what happens is like this, right? The ash becomes very high, when you first start it, right? It gets really, really high. And you need to, lower it, right? To blow on it, to lower it. Otherwise, everything is going to get burned, So you got to wait a little bit, 20 minutes, right? Let you go down. Half hour, whatever, right? If you're smart, wait a half hour. This way, nothing will get burnt. So, what do you call it? You wait, and then, you got to put it down also sometimes, because sometimes it starts burning. So they say, you see, you're doing kibui on Yom Tov. You're extinguishing the fire on Yom Tov. Asur. That's what they say, right? People, some people who don't know halakha so good. But this is not true. This is not emet. I'll tell you why. Because it says in the Chazon Ovadia, Maran Ovadia Vashem, and it's also written in many books, this thing, which is that if you're lowering the fire, right, that the food shouldn't get burnt, that's allowed to do. You're allowed to do kibui like this, that the food shouldn't burn. So this is the reason why it's not a problem. If you would just do kibui regular, to put it out for no reason, asur, be'emet it's asur to do this on Yom Tov. But since you're doing it, that the food shouldn't get burned, the steak, right, whatever, right, that's okay, no problem. Shish kebab, right? You don't want to eat burnt stuff, So you got to put it out a little bit, otherwise it's gonna be. So that's mutar. That's not really a problem, right? So you can, blow on it, like this, right? The stuff that we do, right? To make sure it doesn't get too high, right? That's the way you do it. But also I have to remind you one more thing, right? In the end, once you finish all the cooking, right? You finished everything. So there, right? You shouldn't, bring some water, and put it out. Because now you're doing it for no reason. There's no more basara, right, on the esh. So then why are you putting it out now? Because you want to, you don't want to hear smoke or whatever. That's not good enough. That's not good enough a reason. Whatever. So therefore, right, when you finish your cooking, since it's Yom Tov, don't put it out. Just leave it and let it go by itself. That's it. Right? No big deal.
What about cigarette? When you're throwing the cigarette, you cannot leave it on. You need to turn it off somehow.
Yeah, it's a good question. Do you smoke, by the way?
No.
Thank God you don't smoke. Does anybody smoke here on Yom Tov? It's very interesting. But Baruch Hashem, a lot of people now stop smoking, in America.
It's allowed to.
They stop smoking. By the way, I'll tell you something interesting.
It's very expensive now.
Yes. I'll tell you something interesting, The truth is, that there is now machloket if you're allowed to smoke on Yom Tov. Rabbi Yashiv said you're not allowed to. Maran Rabbi he allowed it to smoke on Yom Tov. So that's why Ashkenazim, they go like Rabbi Yashiv, they don't smoke on Yom Tov anymore, they stopped. Only the Hasidim they do it, But the Litaim, the Lithuanian, they don't smoke on Yom Tov anymore because Rabbi Yashiv told them it's asur. So why is it asur? But it was always mutar, right? It was always minhag to allow smoking on Yom Tov. How now it became asur? So you know why he made it asur, Rabbi Yashiv? Because he said that he asked his people, he said, go and find out. Do the majority of people now, they smoke or they don't smoke? Majority, right? Rove. And they came back and told him, it used to be majority, now it's minority. Only miut, right, of people smoke. Let's say 30%, right? I don't know, 25%. Whatever it is, right? So it's not majority anymore. So he said, that's the thing. Once it's not the majority, it's already asur, because it's not davar shaveh lechol nefesh. So he forbade it, Maran came, Rav Ovadia Shalom, and he wrote a big tshuva, and Chazon Ovadia to allow this. You know what I mean? But still, machloket, a little bit over there. But anyway, if you smoke on Yom Tov, you could, but his question is like this, right? How do you put it out, right? So you shouldn't put it out directly. What you should do is just drop it on the floor, or drop it into the sink. it's like, it's grama, It's not going to go out right away. It's going to go out in time. So that's the best way. To do it an abnormal way, shinui, grama, this kind of thing, right? This is the way to put out a cigarette. But don't put it out like, with your hands like this. Asur. You're not allowed to do that. It's true. Let it go out by itself. ברוך ה' לעולם, אמן אמן. לפי כן אני שומר, להצליח הקדוש ברוך הוא לעוזב לישראל, לפי כן חיבה להם תורה ומצוות שנאמר אדוני חפש, למען צדקו יגדיל תורה וידיר.